Yep. All right. Good morning. Yeah. Welcome to the Linda Hall Library. I'm Christina Gabordi, Program Manager. Thank you for joining us today for How Do I Become an Engineer? This program is presented in partnership with the University of Missouri, Kansas City School of Science and Engineering. I'd like to give a special thanks to our community partners who participated in the networking hour. Hafer Welker, Whiting Turner, the American Society of Civil Engineers, Hallmark Cards, Kiewit, Black and Veatch, Honeywell, and UMKC School of Science and Engineering. Thank you so much. And I also wanted to shout out a really cool program we'll be having next week. It's Elections, Technology, and Trust in 2024 and beyond, October 10th, so next Thursday. It features Matt Blaze, professor of computer science and law at Georgetown University. It's going to be a really timely one, so I encourage you to sign up for that one. Now I would like to thank Marjorie Eisenman, Assistant Dean of Student Affairs at UMKC School of Science and Engineering, and her team for the incredible assistance with today's partnership event. And now I'd like to welcome Marjorie to the stage for a brief remark and to introduce the moderator for today. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you. We're so excited to once again be partnering with Linda Hall Library on this great event, and excited to have all of you here to learn a little bit more about what it takes to become an engineer. And then also after our awesome panel to be able to go and see right across the street, the School of Science and Engineering at UMKC. We really think of ourselves as Kansas City's engineering school. We are here to provide engineers for all these great companies and many, many more that are here in Kansas City, making Kansas City one of the biggest engineering communities in the country. And so we're excited to have you here to share this with you, and our amazing alumni, who I am so thankful for them for joining us today. First, I'd like to introduce our moderator for our panel today, Dr. Eric Timpson. He is a principal electrical engineer at Honeywell, and he's been there for over 16 years. Eric has authored and co-authored more than 16 peer-reviewed journal articles, conference proceedings, and technical magazine column articles. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering with honors, minors in math, physics, and biology. That's not normal. From the University of Missouri Rolla, an MS in Electrical and Computer Engineering from the University of Missouri Kansas City, and a PhD in Electrical and Computer Engineering from the University of Missouri Columbia. So he's pretty much a University of Missouri system poster boy. We just talked about him getting some sort of degree from the University of Missouri St. Louis to round it all out. So I'm happy to introduce Dr. Eric Timpson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. How's everybody doing today? Well, good. Man, I loved being able to chat there in the networking hour with many of you, and I just want to warmly welcome everyone, especially the people who are in the hot seat right now, our esteemed panelists. So, and very humbled by the introduction. Thank you, thank you. Like I said, it's just a delight to be here today. So let's go ahead and start with Jasmine. I'll have you introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself, and we'll just kind of move down the line to set it up for the most difficult question first, which is why. But we're going to hear about them first. And so please take it away, Jasmine.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Jasmine Brown. I'm originally from Kansas City. I went to Sumner Academy, if anybody here knows about the school. I studied here at UMKC and got a bachelor's in electrical and computer engineering with an emphasis in electromagnetics and radio frequency. I'm currently working at Honeywell FM&T as an electrical engineer 1 with an emphasis in embedded systems.
Hello, my name is Danny Hodson. I'm also here from Kansas City. I went to UMKC, graduated in 2021 with the civil engineering degree, and I work in Kansas City as a transportation engineer.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Tolu Wanemi Olatunde Salao, Tolu for short. I am a mechanical engineer, but I work as a process engineer at a medical device manufacturing company in Lenexa, Kansas, Vantage MedTech. I graduated UMKC in 2022 with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering emphasis in biomedical engineering, and then my master's in 2023 in emphasis on manufacturing. And did I say where I'm originally from Nigeria? Did I start from that? Yeah.
No, you're good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, no, that's important.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you all.
Hi, I'm Peyton Phipps. So I'm actually from Southern Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks area, and I went to high school in Houston, Texas. I graduated in 2023 with my bachelor's in civil engineering from UMKC, and I'm actually currently at UMKC studying my master's in civil engineering with an emphasis in contaminant remediation and hazardous waste treatment, and I'll be pursuing a PhD once I'm done with that in the same area.
Excellent.
And I work for Black and Beach as a civil or structural engineer too. Sorry.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, yeah. So again, we got a bunch of folks in the audience that are in a variety of places in their educational journeys around high school, and they're trying to figure out, what should I study? So why should they study engineering, and probably the particular discipline of engineering that you chose? But you don't have to go there. You can go anywhere. So Jasmine, let's start off with you.
I didn't want to be first.
Oh, okay. We can start with Peyton.
I'll be first.
Okay, yeah,
Fine.
let's go
I've been
Peyton.
thinking about this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
So I got into engineering because my brother is actually an electrical engineer, conveniently for Black and Beach as well. He didn't go to UMKC, so but he kind of gave me that push of like, this is a career path I think would be good for you, and gave me the resources to really look into it. And as I delved more into it, I was like, okay, this is really cool. I always wanted to go into the medical field, but I'm like way too squeamish for that kind of stuff. I can't do like blood, guts, any of that. But engineering kind of gave me that path to be able to help people and make a difference without having to, deal with all of the
The
gore.
actual blood.
Yeah, and a big thing for me also growing up was like clean water, which is what I currently work in. I work in water and wastewater treatment at Black and Beach. And being able to make a difference not only in the United States, but outside of the United States is a really, really cool thing for me. So.
Yeah, I thought you brought up a great point on being able to make a difference. I think engineers of all disciplines and backgrounds make a difference in whatever discipline they're in. And that was definitely a big reason why I went into civil engineering as well. I wanted to work on projects that the public could enjoy. And so as a transportation engineer, I do roads and sidewalks that are constructed by the public and are used by the public. And so anywhere where I'm building a project, it improves the community that it's in. And I like to feel like I'm making a direct impact on people's lives and improving their neighborhoods and things like that. So that's definitely why I got into civil engineering.
Excellent. Yeah, I talked to a couple Boy Scouts in the audience, and so I'm sure they could resonate with what you just said for sure, is the community impact.
Yeah, I can go next. Last. So growing up, I wanted to be an inventor, right? That was the overarching thing. I read so many books about people that changed the world with one little device they made or a design they had. And my dad, he's a mechanical engineer actually in Nigeria, but he works in the oil industry. But whenever he's home, anything that's broken, he can fix. And I'm like, but that's not your job. That's not what you do. How do you think like that? And I was interested in that mindset, and it shaped the way I started to think about things. Like, I can fix things myself. I can think about solutions that are creative. And that led me down the path of mechanical engineering, only because of the physical nature of that degree, right? Electrical engineering is way too abstract for me. And to me, that's very, very complicated.
Yeah.
Electrical engineers here, though. But just like you mentioned, in the medical space, I cannot stand blood or anything like that. But I figured, if I wanted to invent something or help create a device for medicine, I would rather be responsible for the devices than the people, So that was like the path that led me down medical devices. And just thinking through that, there are several options. Inside mechanical engineering, I can get the ability to design things and create and innovate on ideas. Then I can hone it on medical devices. So that was the reason behind it.
Excellent. That's great. Did we give you enough time? We
Yeah.
could skip it if you want to.
So I actually got into engineering very untraditional. So I actually started off as a pre-med student with my closest friend from high school. And after a year, she ended up switching to electrical. I was still kind of trying to make pre-med work. It didn't work. But I ended up going over her house one day and she was working on circuits. And I thought it was interesting and I was looking for a switch. So I ended up moving over to electrical with her. And so I just figured I'm interested in cars. I'm a big car fan. And so electrical, you can work on cars. And so that's really kind of what got me into specifically electrical is being able to work on the mechanics of the car. It's something I really wanted to do.
All right. Well, thank you all. So, okay, so now some very relevant questions, right? What classes do I need to take in high school to help get the right start for engineering school?
I can start off with this one.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Independence, and at my high school, we had Project Lead the Way classes, which I'm sure many of you have heard of at your high schools. And so I actually took a class called Civil Engineering and Architecture, and I went to that class because I was interested in architecture, and I left it, having a better understanding of what civil engineering was. And so definitely Project Lead the Way. And also my senior year, I was offered calculus and physics. And those are classes that you take your freshman and sophomore years. No matter what engineering discipline you're going into, you're going to take calc and physics. And so if you're offered those in high school, definitely take advantage of that. And I was lucky enough to do dual credit as well. So I didn't have to take Calc 1 and 2 in college. I got them knocked out in high school. So those are definitely some easy ones that you can take.
Yeah, I can definitely say physics is a big class that would show you what aspect of engineering you might be more endeared to, but having a well-rounded knowledge of physics in general would help you in the long run anyways, right? So like you said, every field in mechanical engineering has a physics counterpart. I would also add biology or chemistry, but biology for me because the space of biomedical device design or medical device design or biomedical engineering, you only become aware of that when you understand biology, all right? And if you're saying, oh, this is how the musculoskeletal system in the body works, you start to think about biomechanics, but you don't know you're thinking about that, right? But it helps you to change the frame of your mind, and you start to understand the body, and then relate it to how can we then improve quality of life through designing something, right? So it gets your mind thinking about things that you wouldn't have thought about if you did not take that class. And then math. Calculus, yes, huge calculus, but just plain on old math, to be very honest.
Algebra, right?
Algebra, like,
Double down on algebra.
to be
Yeah.
very honest. Because in the real world, everything can be simplified into an algebraic form, right? And you won't use it as you would think, but even just in living life every day, oh, if I add this and this, is it going to do whatever? But it's a very basic skill to have that I would say don't take for granted. Grow every math skill you have. In calculus, it would help. In physics, it would help every calculation-based subject.
Yeah, calculus is a big one. I know that calculus and physics stayed with me all up until my senior year. So definitely take those. If your school doesn't offer calculus, at least take pre-cal because then you don't have to test in, I think. Chemistry was a big one for me too. So my focus is in environmental. As a master's student, I basically only take chemistry classes now because I work in a hazardous waste lab. Also chemistry is fun. The chemistry class at UMKC is at 7:40 in the morning. So if you don't want to go to class at 7:40 in the morning, then take it in high school. I take it AP. You need to get the college credit. You can't just take a normal chemistry class. You might be able to CLEP out, which is where you basically test out of it, but
Yeah.
just take the college level. It'll help you in the long run.
Yeah, so I talked to some of them and they're definitely doing some dual credit options too.
Mhm.
So keep those, definitely take those wherever you have those as an option.
I also took like all of my history classes in high school AP, and I feel like that was really helpful for me because I was able to get into my engineering classes a lot sooner than other students because I didn't have to fill in those credits in my undergrad or like
Yeah.
my lower levels of my undergrad.
So definitely take your STEM courses, but I would recommend taking some type of public speaking, some type of debate class. Because because when you get out in the real world and you want to get an internship, the best thing you can do is to be able to communicate and talk to people. I know so many people that I graduated with. They had the internships down. They had all the work that they had done in school, but they couldn't connect with the interviewer. And so really being able to talk to somebody and make them feel comfortable, I think those are skills that you can learn in high school too, to make sure that you can get a job after the end of these 4 years.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, just being able to, and a lot of the questions that I got leading up to this was, what about internships? Well, at the Kansas City National Security Campus, for instance, our internship program is very competitive. And so you have to be able to show up with your resume and an elevator speech. I've heard about you guys. I'm really interested in your mission, and this is why I want to work there, and maintain eye contact, like all of those things that as an engineer, I know it can be easy to struggle with those. It's easy to be an introverted engineer. So I really like that one.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. Did I miss anybody? I think we got everybody covered on that one. Okay. So, and by the way, we are going to open this up too. So be thinking about questions that you guys might have. We'll eventually have a microphone that we can walk around. This is for you. So this is to help you with your decision process on how do I become an engineer. So be thinking about those questions. In the meantime, how do I select the right college program for me?
I'll start.
Okay.
Make sure that your school is ABET accredited.
Yeah.
Please, 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 if you ever want to become a professional engineer, which you take your FE and then your PE, that's the fundamentals of engineering exam and the professional engineering exam for whatever discipline that you choose. You have to go to a school that's ABET accredited. Say you go to a school that's not ABET accredited, you go through all 4 years there, and then you go to take your FE. There's a lot more hoops you have to go through. And it's a lot harder to try to take your FE than compared to if you just went to an ABET accredited school. There's a chance that you'll have to go back to school to an ABET accredited program, take all those classes over again. So whenever you're pouring wherever you choose to go, ask if they're ABET accredited. UMKC is ABET accredited. We just went through reaccreditation, just so you know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's good advice. It really is.
I think a very important part too, on a more personal level for choosing a degree path is it's also good to have an end goal, right? It's good to have a dream company. Some of the time, the decisions you make would be as a result of that goal, right? So for me, my goal had morphed and changed over the years, but there was the final part in junior year, believe it or not, in college, I decided, okay, medical devices, I have a list of medical device manufacturing companies, and so what classes are going to be beneficial to that? And I knew that, okay, I can't be taking nuclear stuff or like some automotive classes when I'm doing medical devices, right? So I had to tailor all my classes to design, understanding human-centered design, understanding user stuff, understanding health, understanding the space of FDA, because all of that is what I need for that end goal. So having an end goal, if it is cars you want to work on, planes or defense, then that is what will drive the classes you pick, right? So you don't waste your time in the extra. It's good to have the extra knowledge, but there's also a limited time frame you have to pick those classes. So having an end goal would definitely help you. And of course, that end goal is based on your interest. So if you're interested in cars and you want to work for GM or Ford or whatever, that's how you would stretch out, that plan for yourself. So
I like it.
Yeah, a good way to select what university or college you want to go to is just, it comes down to money and how many scholarships you're getting and how affordable the university is. I know I told one of you when I was at the table earlier, but one thing I wish I would have known in high school looking at colleges and scholarships in particular is that the scholarships that you have as an incoming freshman are not the scholarships that you will graduate with. Once you get into college, opportunities open up for more and more scholarships through professional organizations or through research. And so the opportunities for scholarships just grow as you become, a sophomore and junior in college. So definitely keep that in mind when you're looking at the affordability of some of the schools that you're deciding between.
I would say go where you're supported. So I went to a big school in Kansas for 2 years before coming to UMKC, and I wasn't supported there. And so going to UMKC, I was supported by other students, faculty, and my professors. So really having a network of people who will support your journey, especially in engineering. You can't do it alone. It's just one of those majors you can't. And so I would say definitely when you're looking online on college reviews, go after the reviews that have faculty that will support you and professors that care and love to do their job. Because it might be a cheaper school, but you might have to repeat a class because the teachers aren't doing what they need to be doing. You're not feeling supported. And so I would say that should be your main concern is somewhere that has an environment for you to be successful.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good one. Where they're going to be peer instructors and study groups and study halls. I like that one a lot. Okay, so looking to see if anybody's raising their hands. No pressure yet, but be thinking about what question you might want to ask. I'm going to set this next one up here. It's when do I need to decide on a specific engineering discipline? And I remember this one vividly. So to set it up a little bit more specifically for you guys, is I remember I said I wanted to be an engineer, and that's like any engineer. And then people would ask me, well, what type? And so it's a very specific type of engineer. And now I have to choose double E or ME or ChemE or whatever it might be. And then guess what? I hire you in and I'm like, hey, listen, I know you studied electrical engineering, but I'm going to need you to go over here and work on this chemical engineering project. Hey, you may be a really good chemical engineer, but I'm also going to need you to run with this electrical engineering project. So you can see how that makes like an hourglass, right? Is you start with any engineering discipline. Now this is specifically what I'm going to choose for my 4 years. And it's even more specific than that. It's like your last 2 years. Because the first 2 years, like they said, are your calculuses and your physics. Those last 2 years is when you're going to specialize in a mechanical or electrical or chemical or whatever it might be, biomedical. And so now that I've set up that engineering hourglass, like how did that work for you guys? Like when did you guys pick which particular type of engineering versus, where are you now?
Yeah, I know I told some of you this when I was at the table earlier, but the civil and mechanical classes, like he said, are very similar the first year or two. At least they were at UMKC. And so I actually knew a lot of people who started as a mechanical their first year and then switched to civil the second year, and they did not graduate any later than anyone else.
Yeah.
Because of all the crossover in those early classes. And also to that point, civil engineering is so broad that there was a lot of people who came in thinking that they were going to work on bridges, become a structural, and then ended up really liking the water classes. And so after graduating, they worked on, water projects. And so I think that's the same for a lot of these engineering majors, is that they're broad enough that you could go into school thinking you're going to be one type of engineer, and it's very easy to, pick up things from different classes and different students and decide something else. So it's a good idea to know what you're doing as an incoming freshman, but the opportunities to cross over and switch are very easy and fluid, and a lot of the times don't require you staying at school any later than you had to.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that from my experience, having known that I wanted to do physical stuff, right? There were only two options, civil or mechanical. And then I was like, well, machines and device design is more of my style. So that honed it down to mechanical. However, inside mechanical, there's so many more things, right? So I gave myself that peace of mind that the first 2 years, I'm fine. Okay, I can get involved in projects, see what I like, get involved in groups, see what I like. And then by my junior year, that's when I was able to start picking those electives that would move me in the direction of thermodynamics and, HVAC or device design or cars or, well, the whole vehicle industry. And I think that space of the first 2 years is very important. As you're taking your classes, get involved in organizations, get involved in groups, get involved in clubs, look into that space of what is happening in the world. What am I interested in? So while you're learning the things you're learning, that would be applicable for civil, mechanical, electrical, whatever space, you are still able to make that decision because you know by your third year, that's when you start to pick those electives and hone into that field. Because I do biomedical device design now. I have so many friends in HVAC. I have many friends in construction. And then I'm like, well, I'm still a mechanical engineer though, so it's fine. But it's very important to know that spend those 2 years making that effort or putting the effort into deciding, right? But you have 2 years. That's a long time, actually. So,
Yeah, I chose what I wanted to do around my third year as well. So I always knew I wanted to do civil engineering, but when I came in, I didn't really know if I wanted to do structural, environmental, water resources. I actually started off wanting to do structural. I interned as a bridge design intern for KDOT for a year, and that's where I really learned. Actually, I think I want to go more into water resources or environmental. I enjoy the structural work I do, but it turned out not being for me. So during my third year, that's whenever I really started exploring more of those environmental classes, hazardous waste management, all of those kinds of things, getting more into chemistry classes. And even then, the way that the degrees are set up at UMKC, you're not going to graduate with that specific emphasis. You're like going to have that background, but your degree is still mechanical engineer or civil engineer. So I currently work as a structural engineer for Black and Beach because my degree is civil engineer, but I'm going to be moving into an instrumentation and controls engineer position here pretty soon, which is typically governed by electrical engineers, but I want to eventually become a process engineer. So that's why I'm going there, is because I'll be a better process engineer if I'm able to understand how to control those processes, because that's what they do.
Mhm.
So you kind of like your third year, but also internships really help. So look at internships early, even if you don't get it, like see what sounds interesting just by reading the descriptions. If you're like, actually, that thing that I thought wasn't cool and was really lame sounds kind of cool now. So
Yeah, definitely. I remember picking out classes
Mhm.
and thinking, wow, this is going to be the coolest class ever. And then you get in, you're like, well, that's not exactly what I thought.
Yeah,
it'd be.
you got-
Or the other way around, like you just said, which is where you get into it and you're like, man, turns out I really do
Yeah.
thermodynamics.
I took a transportation class, not dogging on you, Danny. I took a transportation class and I hated it. I thought it was so boring.
Uh,
But
uh,
I wouldn't know if I hadn't taken it. So
And so the message again is again not to dog or be negative, right? But the message is like figure out what you guys like and you have time, right? So in other words, when you start off in those calculus and those physics, don't just say, "Oh, I'm totally going to be an electrical and computer engineer." I selfishly want you to be because I need more of them. But if transportation is your jam, then transportation is your jam. Like you got to go for that. The other one that we haven't talked about yet is industrial engineers. The number of CEOs and presidents of facilities that have an industrial engineering degree is staggering. And again, I remember as an electrical engineer saying, well, I don't think industrial engineering sounds hard enough for me. Like I really wanted the math. I really wanted to go as technical as I possibly could into the physics. And then, and other people, they just said, no, I really like process or I like setting up these manufacturing systems. And so we're going to go that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say obviously third year, like they said, but also engineering, specifically electrical, when I went here, we have so many options to do electives. So I took mechanical engineering courses. I took a chemical engineering course. Although they weren't specifically for my major, they counted as credit. And so I was able to go to different facets of electrical or different facets of engineering to be able to kind of figure out what I wanted to do before getting completely stuck into electrical engineering. But also, give me a second. But also in high school, there's Code Warriors. It's a website where you can learn how to program. I mentioned to some people buying an Arduino, which is like a little board, and you can program it. It's $50 and there's a kit, thousands of tutorials online. Structural engineering, mechanical engineering, AutoCAD, SolidWorks. These are things you can do in high school that are courses you're going to have to take eventually, but then you can kind of figure out which one you want to do. They're usually, for the courses, they're about $100, but you have the license forever, so you can really use it whenever you want. And so I would say for high school, making sure that you're buying different tools in different areas to kind of see what you want to do before going into college also.
Actually, on the space of internships, I just remembered something, and you had mentioned it as well. But the opportunities to intern at a field that maybe you've never really thought about. I said now I'm in medical device design, but I interned at JE Dunn, right? And I was in construction for for 4 months as a project management intern. I was on the field, I was familiar with construction, and I actually realized that I might not hate this. It's not that bad. Civil engineers are cool,
Yeah.
that I made that decision to open up my mind to that space, even though I knew that that was still very large, it was still very broad, but I knew it was a possibility. And then later on, my next year, I got an internship at the company where I am now, but then as an intern, and then I realized, okay, yes, I do like electronic stuff. I do like the design for medical devices. I think that's the space I can at least grow in. It's closer to my goal of being an inventor, right? And that opportunity and the mindset shift came from taking on that experience and not being shy to try it, because you would get into a space and you're like, oh, if I went into construction, would I have liked it? Well, then try it, or talk to someone in that space. And networking is a very, very big thing. Sometimes you can learn a lot just from hearing what other people have done based on their own experience. So you don't have to experience it. So
To
yeah.
build off of that, you can also do internships as like high school students. Companies do offer that to you. They may not be paid or paid as well as if you were a college student, but that is an option. You can also kind of be an apprentice in labs. We had a high school student in my lab, like over this last semester. It's a lot of fun. If you just have to get in contact with the right people, if you know what you want to do and you know what or like any university that's near you, maybe it's not the university you go to, get in contact with their admissions office, their recruitment people, to find maybe a professor that would be an interesting space for you to just get some experience in, even if it's not, you're not sure it's what you want to do. You might learn something new.
Yeah, you guys are reading my mind over here. I was just about to ask about internships. And so I feel like you two already spoke on it. Do you guys have any words of advice around, are internships important? How do I get one?
Internships are very important. And I think going to UMKC, you have the opportunity to be in the city where all of these companies are. And I said this to a few people who came to my table, but we have some large engineering firms in Kansas City, and they're full of engineering professionals who want to get out in front of high school students and college students who are interested in engineering and connect with them. And so through the professional organization that I'm a part of, I met some of those professional engineers in college, and so I've known some of these people for 7 or 8 years, even though I'm only a few years out of college. And so those are connections that I've made a long time ago, and they helped me get internships, and I still network and connect with them all the time. And so being in Kansas City gives you that unique opportunity. Another thing about internships in Kansas City is that my junior and senior year, I worked as an intern during the school year. And so when I first toured UMKC in high school, my tour guide mentioned that she had done that. And I immediately was like, I want to do that. I want to, go to school, work on Thursday and Friday, make money while going to school. Being able to, take what I learned in school and apply it in the office setting at the same time was like something that was really appealing to me. And so I definitely took advantage of it. And it's definitely a unique opportunity about UMKC because some of these other schools, although they're really good schools, they don't have the engineering business community that Kansas City does. So it's definitely something to think about.
Networking is great. Definitely go out there and get some internships, but I would say most importantly is find mentors. It's really, especially engineering, it's about who you know. You can have a list of people or a list of accomplishments on your resume, but if you know somebody, you can get an internship like that. I have a friend and she's had 8 internships now, and she got each one because she just talked to people. It's really just making connections with people. Also, if you don't get an internship your junior year, your sophomore year, it's okay to reach out for research. I didn't get one my sophomore year, and so I reached out to my professor, and he was able to get me an internship over the summer to work in UMKC's lab. That prepared me to be able to come back in the fall and get an internship with Honeywell. And I did an internship with them for a year, and I was able to get a full-time job. So sometimes, even though you might want this specific company, it's not your time. And so just reaching out to different people in your network, even Marjorie, she's helped me get connections with people. And so definitely don't stop at your first no, for sure.
8
Yeah.
internships is crazy, not gonna lie. But
Yeah.
yeah, I got my first internship in my junior year. I was crying every other year, like I'm never gonna get a job. This is
No.
sad. But my junior year, I got an internship actually through an email list that the School of Science and Engineering had sent out. And at the end of it, they were like, "Oh, internships and this," and I'm like, "Huh, okay, let me just try it." And apparently, it had a scholarship and an internship, and that was it. And then from there, that's the thing. Take whatever you can take, because project management and construction wasn't really what I was thinking about. But I was at that point, I'm like, I need experience, and I want to know what I don't want, right? And uh, putting that on my resume. By the time I started applying more places, that's when I started getting more. I'm like, where have you guys been? I've been here trying to get jobs, but the internship I got my second year after that is where I work now full time. So it's definitely good to at least open that door and keep networking. Just keep pushing. Don't stop at your personal. That's very important.
Yeah, I got my first internship the same way. It was through that email list. And I had been applying I wanted to work at Black and Beach so bad. And it happened. So you know what? Don't let your dreams be dreams. But I kept getting no's and no's and no's as a freshman and sophomore. And then end of my sophomore year, I got that email from the School of Science and Engineering. And I applied to KDOT and I immediately got an internship after interviewing with them. And while I was there, I loved this company so much. I love KDOT. Amazing. I would go back there. But my boss while I was there was like, so what do you want to learn? It wasn't, this is what we have for you. It's what do you want to do while you're here? How can we help you grow in your career and your education? And so they gave me projects over classes that I would be taking the next semester or that I had already taken but wanted to learn more about, like hydrology and stuff like that, even though I was in bridge design. So I was like doing the actual structural stuff. They're like, here, why don't you do this hydraulics project? And then after that, networking, a major thing. My brother worked for Black and Beach, so I got a Black and Beach job after he sent my what is it called, resume off to the recruiter at the time, who was also his best friend. So, and I got a job not long after that, and I was able to work during the semester. They actually hired me on mid-semester, so it was really, really cool.
Can I add
Thank you.
something?
Yeah, please.
Also with mentorship, it doesn't have to be someone you know, maybe a sibling. Obviously, it's nice, but I mean, just go up to people and ask. I have 6 or 7 mentors now. They didn't come up to me. I just said, "Hey, I like what you're doing. You know, do you have time for us to get a coffee? Do you have time to show me what you're doing?" At Honeywell, it's very easy because we have 7,000 employees. So, and we always have events like this going on in plant. And so there's an engineering fellow, and I asked him, he works in electromagnetics. And I just asked him, "Hey, I like what you're doing. Would you show me around and let me know when you have time so I can see what you're doing?" And I have a mentor out of that. So people love talking about themselves and people love helping each other, especially people younger than them. So don't feel scared or anything like that. You just get out and say, "Hey, can I learn about what you do?"
Mhm.
In the similar vein of internships and resumes and mentorships and stuff is, I was involved with a professional org in college and I ran for a board position and I was able to put that on my resume. And now that I'm, looking at resumes at career fairs and deciding who to interview and to hire, that's really something I look for on resumes is, are they involved with a student organization? Are they involved with the research? Do they have something that they're, showing initiative and going out and doing something extra instead of just going to class? And so no matter what major you are, there's organizations and research that you can get a part of. And yeah, having that on your resume, it looks really good for an internship. So I encourage you all to do that.
Yeah, Danny, you're reading my mind over here. I actually had that written down here. So I don't know, have any of you guys ever struggled with an algebra problem, a math problem, a physics problem? And then I'll give you, for the panelists, I'll give you a clue here. It's an odd problem. Did you ever flip to the back of the book and try and find the answer?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in many of the calculus and the physics books that you'll be studying through, which we're going to get to that question next, in the odd problems, the answer is in the back of the book. And so what you can do is you can start at that answer and you can work back to how should I have set this problem up? How do I figure this out? So now being really practical with you, the answer is to get a job at a career fair, you're going to have to hand them a resume. Okay, that resume is going to have, it's got to have an awesome GPA. That's the first thing I look for. The second thing it's got to have is just what he said, right? What student organizations are you affiliated with? Were you in like a robotics club? What was your senior design project? In other words, I want something to where I can actually try and connect with you and learn about your passions from that piece of paper in that 30 seconds that you're handing it to me. And then the last one is the soft skills, which Jasmine already talked about, which is this person maintaining eye contact with me? Have they done their homework? Do they know who I work for? Do they know where they really want to get a job? And then just because you've studied up on these big engineering firms, print extra copies at the career fair and go to the other places that you haven't, because it's okay to let that be the introduction, right? You don't know, what I say is where the Holy Spirit's going to lead you. So as long as you build that beautiful resume and you start going to those career fairs, you'd be surprised at what opportunities are going to open up. And realistically, it's going to come through your network like they've already established.
Can I add something about resume
Please.
building?
Yeah.
I don't, what is going on? Have an objective on your resume, please. Whenever I look at them, I won't read them if I don't know what you want. Like, I'm going to be straight up with you. Whenever somebody hands me a resume, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? What do you want to do? The company that you're applying for wants to know that you have some sort of goal, whether it's to obtain an internship, a job in this division at this company or this field of work, or you really want to work at this company. It doesn't have to be amazing. Literally, my objective was to obtain an internship at Black & Veatch, to obtain an internship at Burns & McDonnell. Also, you can tailor your resume for each position and each company you're applying for. Don't be scared to change it, save it. It's not difficult. It takes like 2 seconds to update your stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And again, we're preparing you for years in advance now, because now you have the chance to, when you start college, instead of just focusing on GPA, or instead of saying, I'll let my GPA slide because I've got to make some extra money with this job. It's like, no, you really do have to do both. In my case, I had to work and go to school and maintain a good GPA. Okay, now I'm going to do my, just to lighten it up a little bit here, I'm going to do my best high schooler impression. Does engineering really require a lot of studying?
Yeah.
it depends.
Yeah.
How did I do?
It does.
I didn't see a hand, so I'm trying my best here. Yeah.
I can start.
Yeah, please.
I think it depends on who you are as a person, but also the way you study. So there are 6 different types of studying. Specifically, I'll just mention auditory, visual, hands-on learning. And so I would say really figure out how you study to be the most successful. So you can I know I used to spend hours reading about the topic that was at hand. But for me, I'm an auditory learner. And so if I listened to the lectures, recordings, I was able to digest the information way better and save time. So I wouldn't say that it requires a lot of studying. It requires studying effectively.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'd say in engineering programs for definitely there's a lot of different ways you can study, like Jasmine was mentioning. And one thing I took advantage of while studying was study groups. And so UMKC, I graduated with like 20 to 25 different civil engineers. And so by the time we were seniors, we knew each other really well. And throughout our 4 years, we studied a lot. We had some of the same classes. And so I would always recommend, if you don't understand something in your class, I always found the person who did and asked them to explain it to me in a new way, through homework or just straight up studying. And so finding those people that you can not only be friends with, but can also, benefit from and help each other and lean on each other through your school is really important as well.
Yeah, just to build on that one real quick. Also, if you get it, explain it to someone else, right? Like that's how you really learn something, is when you teach it. So just what he said, if I don't get it, I'm going to find someone who does and listen. If I do get it, I'm going to find someone who doesn't and talk. And that really is, that study group, I think, is very important. I think one of you guys was going next year.
Yeah, I think to what Jasmine had mentioned, I'm a visual learner
Mhm.
and very practical in my studying. I don't like studying for long. I said yes because you do need to study, but to our point, you need to find the best way. What are the things that you remember the most, and why do you remember them? That's how you would think about it. Did I remember it because I read it, or do I remember it because I heard it, right? Or I solved that problem, or I drew it. You know, for me, it's those two: listening in class, and then actually in the study groups. I'm like the only person on the board. Like, as they're saying, Tolu, it's fine, just this is it. I'm like, hey, give me a second. And I start like writing everything on the board, drawing it out. And the moment I get it, it never leaves my mind. And I would forever understand it. But putting that effort into figuring out how it works for you is very important, because no one's you can't expect to have the same style as another person. You might, and that would be great, but don't look at another person's style or life. You have your own journey that you're on. So that is very important. But I will also say digging deeper outside class is also important. So if you learn a concept in class, leave the pressure of class and go watch it on YouTube. And like, oh, that's what the professor meant. Oh, that's you will get it more because the pressure is gone to take notes or whatever. But just take that 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour. It doesn't matter. But doing it in a more relaxed state to where it is knowledge that you now do not associate with pressure of class. It's just now I know, right? And that helps a lot in any exam or talking to somebody. So
Yeah, I'm a very hands-on studier. Like I need to go through the process by myself. I need to mess up a couple times for me to get it. A lot of your classes are like math classes. It's hard to study for those because it's working problems. A lot of design classes, it's hard to study for those because it's, again, working problems. Find problems in your textbook that have solutions that you can go look at after, solve them on your own. Don't use the textbook. Solve it on your own. Like use the textbook if you need help going through the process. But like don't look at the answer. Solve it on your own. Check. If you mess up, see where you messed up. Then go back and redo it again if you have to. Come back to it later once you're not stressed out. If you start getting really stressed out studying, I know I have to step away, go do something fun, go play with my cats, play some video games, go take a walk,
Yeah.
do something to take your mind off of it, calm down, and come back to it with a clear head. It makes a world of difference. And then like making sure you're knowing concepts. Quizlet is out there for a reason. And they have it for every single one of your classes and every single one of your textbooks. It takes maybe like 30 minutes to an hour to go through a Quizlet and see if you understand concepts. Because if you don't understand concepts, you're not going to understand the process.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, well said.
I'll add one more thing.
Please.
Also, we have an advantage now because we have YouTube. There's a video for everything, absolutely everything. 10, 15 years back, you had to read a textbook, go to the library and get all those things. Now you have YouTube. You type in any single thing you have a problem with. There's at least 10 videos to help you. There's so many websites to help you. And so truly there's no excuse not to be able to study because you have so many outlets available for you.
Nice. Okay. We're starting to run out of time. So if does anybody have any questions? Oh, we do. We got a question here.
All right, I'll come around if you have a question so the live stream can hear. Who had their hand up?
It's right here.
So if you're interested in internships, like who do you contact inside the company?
it kind of depends. A lot of times it's going to be recruitment. Um, I don't really know who you would reach out to a lot. It helps if you know somebody, but a lot of times you can kind of contact HR and they'll have a recruitment manager that'll help you.
I have a good answer for this. So, has anyone ever heard of LinkedIn? It's kind of like a social media, but for like professionals. But LinkedIn, they have a page for job postings, and on LinkedIn, a lot of job postings will say, it'll say like meet the hiring team, and it'll actually have the manager or whoever you're going to interview with, they'll have their LinkedIn profile right there. And so I would encourage you guys to make a LinkedIn. Even if you don't have a resume yet, just make one just to, follow companies, see what they do. All these companies in the metro post on it a lot over fun events or just like some of the projects they've been working on. So I'd encourage you all to make a LinkedIn and then, yeah, of course, reach out to that person if you're interested in applying for the internship.
I'll also add, at the collegiate level, at least one of your professors knows somebody that's working there. There's so many alumni.
Yeah.
I got a contact at Garmin because my professor said, "Hey, does anyone want to work at Garmin? Here's a contact." And so all your professors, they know somebody who works at one company you want to work at. So just ask. That's all you can do.
Also, your peers, like alums know people. I know, Danny, you reached out to me one time about Wilson and Co. just asking if I was interested in an internship. So, like, don't be scared to reach out to your network, regardless of whether or not you know them super well.
Yeah, and this statement, whenever I was a college student, was said to me, and I actually believed in so much that talk to the friends that you have. They might have like a brother or a cousin or someone that works somewhere. But whenever I started working full time, a lot of my brother's friends started reaching out to me and like, "Hey, I got your number from Mumia and this." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Tell me about yourself." And they would let me know their interest in the company that I'm working for. And to the point, the hiring team is who really like does all of that. But whenever from internal, I'm like, "Hey, HR, I have a resume for someone. I've already vetted them." It actually expedites the process. So they didn't really need to know me for years and years, but that bold step of, "Hey, I got a number from this. I know you are an alumni at UMKC. I go to UMKC. Uh, uh, could we meet or whatever?" So that also works. Whenever you start thinking about or in college, going to fairs is very, very good because you will meet the people that are behind the screens, right? On LinkedIn or whatever, you will meet them in person at job fairs. So that's a very important part as well. But do not hesitate to ask the questions. Don't hesitate to send a message. They're normal people too. Like after going behind that barrier of being in the workspace, receiving a text like that, I'm like, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" Like I could just imagine they're like, "I hope he responds" or whatever. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really helpful.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, please.
How similar are civil and architectural engineering?
That's a good question. So when I was in high school, I was actually really interested in architecture, and that's what I thought I was going to go to school for. So they're similar in the way that you're working on buildings. Civil engineering is very broad, and one of those disciplines is structural, and that's more on the buildings. You can work as a building engineer. We call that vertical engineering because roads and stuff is horizontal, vertical is buildings, and so they're very similar in that way. So yeah, I was interested in architecture, and I figured out that I was too good at math and physics to to go into architecture.
No.
Sorry if there's any architects out there.
I
but-
think what he meant to say is that he preferred the math and physics over like the design and the art. And the
Yes,
aesthetics and
yes,
stuff,
yes.
right? Yeah.
That's
That's one of the
exactly it.
reasons
Thank
why I
you.
resonate with rephrasing that is,
Yeah.
is like my brother, right? He's a professor of art. And so he and I have constantly had the dialogue between art and science. And some people lean that way where they would prefer to do the
Mhm.
aesthetics.
But yeah, very similar in that way to answer
Yeah.
your question.
I know that architecture is a lot more like studio work. So it's going to be a lot more with hands-on in the actual planning of the building. Whereas I know with like structural engineering, it's a lot more calculations.
Mhm.
So it's a lot more of like, logistically, will this work? We work with the architects all the time. They're like, "Can we put a window here? Will that be okay? If we want to do this design, is that going to be okay?" So you work very closely with them, but the thought process is kind of different. They're more focused on like, okay, how is this going to look? Whereas I feel like the structural or civil engineers are like, how is this going to function from a will it stand up perspective?
Yeah.
The architect is more like, how is this going to look and function for what the client needs?
Yeah. Yep, excellent question. Okay, so now we're very short on time. So save the best question for last, which is, what is the best part of your job right now? And we don't have to go in order, whoever.
I can say working in medical devices
Yeah.
is my company. We don't make just one type. We make devices for other clients, and having gone through the whole project phase, and you've made the device, and it's been shipped out, and then 2 weeks later you see a LinkedIn post that this device was used to on the first iteration of whatever in Chile or whatever or wherever in the world, and it was successfully used to remove a blood clot or whatever. I'm like, I helped make that. That's really cool, right? So that satisfaction that I had craved from the beginning of time of I don't want to be directly responsible for the patients, but make the devices that save lives.
Yeah.
That's very important. That's a very huge deal for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, similar answer to you is I worked on a trail project for a park in this really small town near Wichita, and I designed it over the course of a year or so, and they just broke ground last month on building this trail in this park, and the inspector's been sending me update photos of my design being built and just improving this park in this rural community, and just seeing something that I designed and took so much thought into like being built in the real world, and once it opens it's going to be used by the public is just like very rewarding. And so as I go on in my career, there's going to be more and more projects that are built like that, but having the first one is very exciting.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. So our projects are really long. Nothing that I have designed in my career so far is actually being built right now because it's a little bit farther down the line. But I was on UMKC Baja's racing team and I did design, Maya's in the back. I did design their frame my senior year, and getting to see that be built and then also like function at competition, I cried. It was the best feeling ever to be like, that's something that I cried over working on, helped manufacture, and then like go through all the whole process with it. And I got to see it function, and I got to see my team use it, and I got to see us do well.
That's
So
beautiful.
So I can't really go into specifically what I do, just because it's classified, but in terms of being an engineer, it's just really fun. You get to do so many different events. I get to come here. I get to go to another event where somebody who's been an engineer for 30 years can talk to me about engineering. There's just a network of people that you're constantly learning. You're constantly making connections. So just the personal day-to-day relationships as an engineer are really, really great. They really are. So that's what I like about engineering.
All right. Well, thank you again, panelists. Would you please help me in thanking the panelists here? Yeah, so in closing, why would you become an engineer? That's where we started. That's where I want to end. The reason why I tell people is because you can be anything at that point. I don't know if you've heard Weird Al Yankovic and his music before. So an artist, he's actually an aerospace engineer. So when you go to college and you pick, in my words, one of the more difficult tracks because of the math and because of the physics, and you find success in it, all that does is that just opens you up for anything that you want to be. So with that, I think we're going to turn over to the UMKC tour. So it should be super exciting for you guys to be able to see this.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Thank you to the whole panel, and thank you all for attending. Visit lindahall.org for upcoming events and programs. And here is Marjorie.
Right. Thank you, guys. I have to say, I've been at UMKC for 9 years, and all of these have been students while I've been there, and they are awesome. So I thank you guys so much for being here this morning. Right now, we're going to go on tours of our engineering facility. One of the nicest things about being partners with Linda Hall Library is we just get to go right across the street and get to see our space and show you all the things that UMKC is doing. And we also have students, current students, who are here to give you those tours. So, so if you have a blue sticker on star sticker on your name tag. And if for parents, if your student has a blue sticker, we're going to have Ethan, and who's going with Ethan? Come and they're going to go. So you guys can, if you have a blue sticker, your family has a blue sticker, go ahead and stand up and we'll send you on the first tour. All right. If your family has a gold sticker on your name tags, we've got our ambassadors back there who are going to take you on your tour. Gold stickers. All right, and our last group, our silver stickers, are going to go with Maya and Hanan in the back.
The Holy Trinity of.
Oh,
representation.
oh, thank you.
That's
Yes.
really-
Oh, no.
You say all the
Oh,
right
that's,
things.
yes, that's very humbling. I appreciate that.